Well, it's been an especially tense weekend off the Korean Peninsula. In a show of solidarity with South Korea, the U.S. begins massive military exercises today. The Communist North threatening to block the maneuvers. The joint exercises coming on the heels of tough talk from Secretary of State Hillary Clinton warning North Korea against provocative acts. So where is this all headed? Jim Walsh is an international security expert with MIT's Security Studies program. Thank you very, very much for talking to us.
Good to be here, and welcome back, Julie.
Oh, thank you very, very much. It's always great to come back, and unfortunately, we're talking about these pretty serious war games going on. Is Korea going to respond with a nuclear test or other action, do you believe?
Well, I don't think they're going to do it this week while the U.S. and South Korea are in the middle of these naval exercises. They might sponsor a missile test or a nuclear test later. I think a lot of analysts are expecting that anyway because North Korea has started a political transition. Kim Jong-il, the leader of North Korea, is going to pass on his position to his youngest son. And in that process, often states like North Korea will act out, sort of puff themselves up during that process. And so whether because of the naval exercises or because of the political transition, I think we can expect something from North Korea in the coming months.
We can just about 100% assume that they will be acting out, and if Pyongyang and Kim Jong-il's son is going to be acting in his father's footsteps, then certainly they are going to act out. The question is how. Will there be war?
You know, I don't think there's going to be war. I don't think any of the parties want war. The North Koreans do not want a shooting war. They know that they would lose that. They're in a weak position, and their economy has suffered even more this year than in previous years. Certainly, the U.S. does not want to be engaged in another conflict with troops in Afghanistan and Iraq. And the neighbors, China's right on the border. South Korea's right on the border. They don't want a war either. So no one wants one. The question, Julie, is sometimes wars happen when people, even when the parties don't want one. If there's miscalculation, if there's an accident, if there's a crisis that escalates, that's how you get a war when people don't want one. And so that's the thing we have to be careful about over the course of the next year.
A lot of people are going to be critical as to whether the U.S. should be getting involved here if we're not already involved in enough wars going on in the world. The chief reason, though, that the U.S. is getting involved, of course, is to support its ally, South Korea. The problem, though, here is the fine line between supporting an ally, as you point out, and threatening an adversary. It's very thin. Is the U.S. making a grave mistake?
Well, I don't think so, but I think it's something to watch. You put your finger on a very important point, Julie. In the security studies world, we call this the security dilemma. Sometimes things that I do to add to my own security are perceived by my enemy as threatening to them. If I build an extra army to make me secure, then my enemy's going to think, oh, no, they're threatening me, they're going to attack. So it's a fine balance. Right now, the U.S. is reassuring South Korea. It's important that the U.S. do that. Going forward, though, we need to get back to the negotiating table. The North Koreans have said they are ready for talks, and as we enter a very critical, very delicate time, I think it's going to be important to keep those lines of communication open, even if we have disagreements. So I expect that we will have talks, and that will help dampen down some of the accidents or miscalculations that the parties might take.
Back in the 1950s, during the Korean conflict, it was actually the Chinese fighting a proxy war through the North Koreans against the U.S. and its allies. China is the missing piece this time around. So how does this current conflict compare to 60 years ago?
Oh, it's night and day. First of all, China is now a leader on the international stage. Even if you think, Julie, even back to the first Korean crisis we had in the early 90s, in the last 15 years, China has really risen as an economic power and a political power. And its relationship with North Korea has changed. I think it's gotten a little shakier. Its relationship with South Korea has improved as it starts to have economic relations with South Korea. So, and I think China wants to play a stabilizing role. They don't want a war. They don't want this problem country on their border to cause economic problems, refugees, all the rest. So I think they're in it for stability, and that's a good thing.
But China could put pressure on North Korea, could they not, to put an end to all of this? I mean, China is in the middle of this. They've opposed the naval exercises, and they want negotiations. So can't they just put a stop to it?
Well, I don't think, first of all, North Korea is a sovereign country. So China, short of invading North Korea, they can use political leverage or whatever.
Right.
But China has to be careful here. Remember, in the six-party talks, it's essentially 5 against 1, right? It's everyone against North Korea. The only friend North Korea has in all this is China. So it's important, actually, the irony, Julie, is that it's important that China and North Korea have a solid relationship, so that gives the North Koreans confidence to move in a different direction. If they think everyone's going to against them, there's no way we're going to see any progress in this.
All right, Jim Walsh, thank you very much for talking to us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.